Hello, and thank you for joining us for this edition of the One Young Word Together Apart series. My name is Lina Khalifeh from Jordan, and I'm a proud One Young Word ambassador who attended the One Young Word Summit 2016 in Ottawa. I'm the founder of SheFighter, which is the first self-defense studio for women started in the Middle East. It is my pleasure to be speaking with One Young Word counselor, Mark Tewksbury, who's an Olympic, did I say it right?
You're perfect, Lena. You're perfect.
Who's an Olympic champion swimmer, the chair of Special Olympics Canada, and board director of the Canadian Olympic Committee. We're here to discuss what COVID-19 means for the sports industry. Thank you, Mark, for joining. Before we begin, how are you handling this new world we're living in?
I'm doing okay. I'm in sort of self-isolation just because most of us in Canada have been told to stay home. And I guess I'm just slowly getting used to this new reality that could go a very long time. And some days I forget. Some days I think, oh, I'm just going to go see oh, I can't go see them. Or, oh, I'm going to go to oh, I can't go there.
Yeah,
so it's very surreal. But I'm trying to find some positives in it as well as just all the sort of scary, uncertain stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. It is very scary. I think it's a change for everybody. But we have Penelope from the Philippines who wants to know, Canada was proactive in its approach to COVID-19 on many fronts. In the Philippines, they went on complete full lockdown. How are Canadians coping with COVID-19 today?
So in Canada, we're a very large country and we're divided into provinces and territories. And each province has its own sort of procedures. But for the most part, the Canadian health medical leader has really said to all of the chief medical officers of the provinces or territories, have your people stay home, and Canadians have been complying. I think this is beginning of week 3. So we're just coming up sort of 14 days of stay home, and we'll be rolling into the next phase. I think we all thought maybe 14 days would be enough to flatten the curve, but it looks like we're in for a much longer haul.
Yeah, I've noticed, because I'm also in Toronto, and I've noticed that you can actually go walk your dog, and people were actually, they're following the rules. So that's amazing. For those of you
it's so odd though, like to go out, we're allowed to go grocery shopping and do things for essentials still, but the feeling of other human beings with each other right now is so odd for me because we're almost scared of each other. And you open a door and there's somebody there and both people jump back. And I just hope that when this passes in a year or a year and a half, that will start to fade as well.
Yeah, I hope also people would not panic too much about it and just try to understand it. But for those of you who may not understand the impact COVID-19 has on the sporting industry and athletes, can you paint a picture of the situation for us?
Sure. I mean, I guess it started a couple of weeks ago with some of the major professional leagues in North America, the NBA, the NHL, starting to close its doors. And I think that was the beginning of a realization that this is going to affect many, many sports. And of course, the Olympics were in July, so it seemed like there was a long time until they were going to come. But what we realized as part of the Olympic Committee in Canada is the crisis is right now because all of our training facilities are closed. Our athletes can't go outside and can't meet with their teammates. So we essentially realized that COVID is going to shut down sport for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it is going to affect the sports industry really badly. But we have Elisa from the US state of Utah is curious to know, Canada was, of course, the first to pull out of this summer's Olympic Games before its official postponement. In what way will the delay of the Games affect athletes globally?
Wow, that's a good big question. Just first of all, so Canada was the first country just to say, based on the circumstances that we're living right now, we don't feel like our athletes can train, and therefore we don't feel like they will be ready to be the best they can be in 4 months. And therefore we decided as a National Olympic Committee that even if the Games went, we would not field a team. And I think that started a whole avalanche of National Olympic Committees around the world speaking up, and the International Olympic Committee making the decision to postpone the Games. So now we know the Games will be almost exactly a year later. This has a big effect on so many aspects of the Olympic movement. Of course, the challenge of moving a games is massive because, as you know, an Olympics is essentially 16 or 18 or 22 world championships all at one time. So that rescheduling is huge. The money that goes to the Olympics, to the IOC because of the marketing dollars, actually over 90% of that money goes back to the National Olympic Committees and international sport federations of the world. So a delay of the games and the possible cancellation would be catastrophic for the financial situation of many sports around the world. And then you have the athletes themselves. For sure, there's some athletes that 2020 was going to be their moment. And a year later from that, that moment may have passed. I guess it's a silver lining that at least there will be a games, but of course, timing is everything. And for some, it will be great. They'll grow into themselves in a year. And for some, unfortunately, the moment will have passed.
Yeah, for sure. But our next question is from Joy from Mozambique. Sport has always acted as a community builder and gives people something to rally behind. With so many event cancellations and postponements, how can we fill that void?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think that it's the circumstances forcing us all to reconsider how we live our daily lives, how we connect with people. I think that just in terms of being isolated, it's still super important to try to be active in some way, to find some way to exercise at home, just for your physical well-being, but also for your mental health. And I think I think right now the whole world needs to be a little bit patient, good to each other, take care of ourselves. But I think it's a little too early to figure out what's next after this. How do we come back together again to play sports and to gather, to watch concerts or sporting events? Yeah. We're a long way from that, but I think right now it's take care of yourself.
Yeah, definitely, and try to just live day by day and keep going with the day.
But we have day by day, you can't underestimate it, especially when these days are so long in our own houses.
I know we go crazy sometimes. We start talking to ourselves. But we have another question from Ireland from Sean. He wants to know, with the postponement of major international sporting events, how can we all, especially young athletes, maintain our optimism and drive for the future, which is something we were talking just about now?
Yeah, well, I think it's great that this question starts from a place of optimism and positivity. And I think we got to try to hang on to that. What we're doing today, communicating through technology, of course, that's one way to stay connected. Whatever you do, though, please follow the public health policy wherever you're living in the world. All of us want to get back together and be active and just have life turn back to normal. But I think the longer we follow instructions from the authorities, stay home, give people space, try to flatten the curve of the spread of the virus, and we'll all get back to our regular lives sooner. But this is a tough time. It's unprecedented. We don't know how long it will be. We're social beings that aren't able to be social, but I think we've got to be really patient.
Yeah, definitely. So we have Pablo from Andorra asks, professional athletes of all abilities have incredible mental fortitude, which allows them to perform at their best abilities. So what advice can you give to those who will be struggling mentally with this isolation?
That's a great question. I think there's a few simple tricks that I bring forward from sport in my real life that I'd love to share. Things like visualization. So the ability to close your eyes and in your mind's eye, imagine things how you would like them to be. And you can actually, if you get really good at that, you can actually sort of reset your whole mood just based on visualization. So I heard a story decades ago that there was a pentathlete, a woman that was injured 6 months before the Olympics. She visualized herself doing all of her events. And when she was actually able to get back into training 4 months later, she was almost as great as she was when she left, because the visualization kept her body really primed. So visualizing positive things is great. I also practice script writing. So I will write out like a scenario of how I want to feel. If I'm going to give a big presentation, I'd be like, I feel myself being confident and smiling as I speak to the audience, and put very descriptive words. You can do that to just create sort of how you want to feel, and maybe some good tools to keep you grounded during this time of uncertainty.
Yeah, that's great, Mark. Olympism and the Olympic values have never been more important. The world really must unite and tackle this pandemic collectively, but we haven't really seen that happen. What can the Olympics teach us about responding on a time of crisis?
Well, listen, I think there's a lot to learn right now. And if I can be a little bit negative for a second, I hate to be, but the International Olympic Committee was pretty slow to make its decision. And I think that what we can learn is that right now it's super important for people in big positions of leadership to show that leadership. And I'm grateful that the Canadian Olympic Committee kind of nudged to say, hey, we need to do the right thing right now. And I think sport leaders need to do the right thing. We've got to put the health of society first and foremost. And then just let's hope that we get back to regular life sooner than later.
Yeah, we're just out of time, but if you could leave the One Young World community with any final peace of mind, what would it be, Mark?
Well, you guys are still the future, so take care of yourself. And all of us are living through this unprecedented time. I think as we add decades to our lives, so I'm in my 50s and can't believe what I'm seeing. I talked to my mom in her 70s. She can't believe what she's seeing. So I can only imagine for our One Young World community that's in their 20s, teens, 20s, early 30s. We're all in this together. I think if there's one consolation, somehow this world through this is going to be closer. I don't know how that's going to look, but that's what I hang on to, that things that we might have known might fall away, but something new is going to emerge, and I'm really excited what that's going to be.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope to get over this all together sooner. Mark, thank you so much for your time. And for those people watching, please like, comment, and share this session. Thank you all, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Lina. See you 2021. Isn't that weird? Tokyo 2021.
See you, Mark, 2021.